In this video, we're traveling from Massachusetts into Maine, and we're going to travel from Sturbridge over to Winter Park Island. We were originally going to go to Boston, but Hurricane Ian derailed our plans, and so we decided to explore Salem. So we went to Winter Park Island to use as our base, which is a gorgeous area, has beautiful views of the beach, the shoreline, and has a lighthouse that you can see across the way, and then an old fort that was used to protect our ports during the Civil War, Revolutionary Wars, and World War.
Hot water, babe.
Cookie's first time seeing the ocean. Oh, Cook, look, look, look. No dogs allowed on the beach.
Yeah.
Well, Brian, I told you I didn't think you could bring dogs.
Well, it said you could that far. Let's go check out the beach, babe.
I will. The beware of snake sign is enough to keep me away from there, but this is some kind of part of the fort here. And then over there was another part of the fort, but the plaque's missing. So those are the bunkers from the Civil War, and there are cement ones down on the other side from World War II that they used to store munitions and whatever to defend the harbor. We asked a local, try to find out information, and here's another bunker. That one's in honor of Special Forces soldiers that were lost. It's awfully cool. Another view of the lighthouse. So these are bunkers.
Well, I'm fixing to find out. Got enough from over here, and you say they've lived here a long time. What are they? These are bunkers.
On Tuesday, we went to Salem from Winter Park, so we took our bikes and we rode into Salem. It's very bikeable. And we visited the House of Seven Gables, where Nathaniel Hawthorne was his birthplace. We visited his cousin's home, where his famous book, The House of Seven Gables, was based on. And that home went through various transitions. We had a personal tour through there. And then we went through Salem Witch Village, which we found very touristy. So we did visit the Witch Trial Memorial, and we went to the Visitor Center there at the National Park Service. And we got to watch a video there where they had just uncovered some recent history where they actually, it was a really well done video on how the witch trials came about, why they happened, and how they were resolved. And so some of the things we learned was that there was a preacher there who came into Salem, kind of his last ditch effort, his last way to make a name for himself or make any money, because he had flunked out of college. And he made friends with some of the really prominent families there in Salem that was already kind of divided into practicing religious people and non-practicing religious people. And he further divided them by, I guess, getting these testimonies from basically adolescents as to whether they had witnessed specters or witchcraft from various people. And so what resulted was 21 people were murdered based on the testimonies of these young kids.
Yeah, it was about their feelings too. It wasn't even really it was like.
Yeah, there was no way to validate whether it was true or not.
Right.
And so eventually, over 1,100 some odd people were imprisoned for saying yes, they were witches, even though they weren't, just to avoid being killed. And they were awaiting trial, and several townspeople and whatever got Boston legal system involved, and they determined that the witch trials were not valid, and the people were subsequently released from prison. So
Kind of like that term where the witch hunt comes from, because it wasn't really real. I mean, it was all fictitious things that people said, but it was little girls or younger girls, it was actually determining whether they believed it, and the testimony was believed. So it was pretty crazy.
And kids just trying to please adults. So
Yeah.
anyway, you'll see that here in this section of the video.
Each of these granite benches along the walls carries the name of a victim, along with the date and means of execution. So, what finally kicked off all this madness? Well, in 1692, Reverend Harris's daughter Betty, age 9, and niece Abigail Williams, age 11, began to suffer from fits. The children screamed, contorted their bodies, and said things that shocked their parents and doctors. The villagers immediately suspected the work of the devil, and a doctor brought in by the Reverend concluded that the girls were indeed under an evil hand. When other girls exhibited...
So on Wednesday, we traveled to Castles.
Yep, it's Castle Day.
So we visited John Hammond's castle, and he was a scientist of sorts from a really well-to-do family, and he basically did lots of experiments, lots of traveling, and collecting things for what he hoped would be a museum, and he did turn his home into a museum. But basically, he was most known for his, what is my hair doing? He was most known for his development with radio technology, like radio-controlled ships, radio-controlled torpedoes for the military, radio-controlled like those drone flights and that type of thing, and the father of ham radio. And so he has turned his home, basically, because he was the only living survivor and had no children, into a museum. And we toured the grounds there. They're beautiful grounds. You'll see that. They host all kinds of weddings and stuff there. And then we tried to go to the castle on the Crane Hill, which online looked a lot like the Biltmore Estate, but they had a rule, which we didn't, I guess we overlooked it, said no dogs on the premises, no animals of any kind on the premises, because it's a safe haven for wildlife. So we couldn't visit because of course we had Cookie with us, and so we detoured and went to Russell Orchards, where we found a really cool farm.
Yeah, plus you can pick your own apples. They actually had apple cider donuts freshly made right there in front of you, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, as far as that goes, they had it well done. It's like a small farmer's market, but it's like open quite a few days of the year, so it's pretty neat.
Yeah, they had everything from wine, apple cider vinegar, baked goods, blueberry pies, all that type of thing, and fresh fruit and veggies straight from their farm, and a little petting zoo that the kids could go pet. And you can kind of walk around the grounds and go out into their orchards and whatnot. It was pretty cool. Is it wobbles?
Get to put a parking spot though.
Yeah.
That's cool out there.
Yeah, look at that.
Hold on. Closer.
Yeah. Just listen to the ocean. Isn't that cool? That's so cool. Look at that window there. So this is the store. Lots of interesting things. Got pure maple syrup. These.
That's gonna be it? All right, I can bring you out right here.
Fruit. More pastries. Tomatoes, onions, peppers. Cider and corn. So from Salem and Winter Park, we traveled up north to Wells, Maine, and stayed at Moody Beach Campground. And from there, we visited Portland, Kennebunkport, and Maine. So we made a stop at Gloucestershire, Maine, kind of walked the boardwalk, just took a break from all the driving and stuff that we'd done. And from there, we found beautiful beaches. It was a really walkable, lovable town.
Yeah.
Very friendly people. And they had a huge memorial to sailors where it listed all the sailors that had died from that area over the centuries. And you could see the decrease in the number of names as technology got better at predicting storms, maybe ship construction got better. And so consequently, it was a neat memorial, I thought. After that, we went to Portland. We saw Headlight Lighthouse, did lots of hiking, explored the forts around that area, beautiful ocean views. And then we drove through Kennebunkport, really didn't stop. We took a picture of President Bush's compound. The flag was flying, so he was said to be in residence.
We saw people out on the grounds too, so we don't
Yeah.
know.
And that was kind of cool. I was trying to speculate as to who was on the grounds and who I was seeing, and then we went to Wells, and while we were at Wells, one of the locals recommended Mike's Clam Shack. So we went there. Brian had his first hot lobster. He had had a lobster roll.
Not a fan.
Not a fan of the cold lobster roll. He didn't care for cold lobster, but the hot lobster there at Mike's Clam Shack was renowned to be really, really good. And he said the meat was really good, dipped in butter. We just weren't a fan of the whole lobster coming out and having to disassemble it to get to the meat. So, the shrimp was really good.
Yeah.
My shrimp was really, really good there. So,
The meat was good, but like I say, getting to it, there's some other parts of it that didn't look so appetizing that comes out with it.
I
So
lost my appetite when he broke that thing in half. I got plastic. It was over, man. I was done. So I packed it up, took it home for later. And this is the lobster roll. They served it cold, dipped in mayonnaise. So there's a museum attached to Lighthouse, but you can't actually go up into the lighthouse. It's a working lighthouse.
West on Ocean Avenue.
So on Friday, we went to the York Historical Society. I looked it up online, and they were offering a special, which they do like once every so many months, tour of Elizabeth Perkins' home. And so the home belonged to Mary and Elizabeth Perkins from like the mid-1700s to 1952, when Elizabeth Perkins passed away and deeded the property to the York Historical Society. And so that home basically was their way of preserving history. They were international travelers. They collected souvenirs just like you and I would from all types of places like Egypt, the Incas, ruins, all types of things. I mean, it was stuff you'd see in the Smithsonian, and here it was in this home. And so we got to tour their home, which unfortunately I've lost pictures of. We also had pictures of the oldest jail in the U.S. dated back to 1646, and a tavern from back in the 1700s. And so that was on Friday. I highly recommend going through and touring those. You can tour those properties, just not the Perkins home, except on special dates. So you'll have to check their website for that. On Saturday, we drove to Bar Harbor. We stayed at Mountain Desert Narrows, and we took the Island Explorer bus, which is free for anybody to use. And it takes you into Acadia National Park, Bar Harbor, and surrounding towns and areas. Basically, it's just free transportation to get around, so you don't have to worry about trying to find a place to park your vehicle, because parking is very limited in that area.
yeah, that's a good system too. I mean, it really worked well.
It did work well. And so we rode the bus around Acadia National Park and just kind of got the lay of the land. And so that kind of set us up for Sunday, where we went into Acadia with the RV. We parked at the visitor center there, and then we rode our bikes all over the carriage trail rides. And so what you find when you do a tour, or you read any kind of literature, is Vanderbilt, a lot of these people, Vanderbilt and some of those others, were big into developing that area, and Vanderbilt donated those carriage trails, which he had developed for his own purposes and getting his own friends and family to and from all around that area, he donated it to the government so that we could use them. It's really well-developed trails. They're very level. They're graded. They're gravel. Easy to travel. I would say even a small tire bike would make it just fine. We had fat tire bikes, but you can ride all over that area. We did 40+ miles and we still didn't cover all the area. But you'll see beautiful views of ponds, lakes, Jordan Pond, mountains, trees. I think we saw the only real wildlife we saw was a porcupine. We were hoping to see moose or something, but we didn't get that lucky. The colors are starting to change. You'll see a little bit of that. And then later we ate that evening at O'Leary's Irish Pub. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was our treat for actually doing all that big workout for the day.
Yeah. And the portions were so big we could actually share. So we got fried haddock and chips and split it. And I had a what was that called? Oh yeah, orange chocolate old fashioned, which I've never had. I'm not really a big drinker, but I thought I would try it because when in Rome, do as the Romans do. It was pretty good. So
Had a Coors Light, but I was in the pub, so it qualified.
it was a neat atmosphere, as you'll see. We had a great time. This is that porcupine. We're lucky we didn't get quills thrown at us, but we got several pictures of it. It was really interesting to see one up close in the wild.
Our first Irish pub.